Guys, going into this next fight, we're going to have Terrence versus Adrian Thomas. So, Matt, if you kind of give us a little bit of assessment on those two guys.
You got two pro debut guys coming in here. You know, I actually spent some time speaking to Thomas, and he's actually an interesting guy. You know, usually you talk to the guy who comes in as even though he's from Clarksville. You know, Reed is the local guy. One thing I know is Thomas has had pro MMA fights. He's had pro jiu-jitsu fights. He's been a pro wrestler. He's wrestled in Kentucky, Tennessee, I think Georgia. He said he'd like to get to WWE Performance Center. So whether it's real or scripted, this guy is a fighter. So I'm actually looking forward to see what Thomas has in the ring.
Yeah, and I saw that Reed actually he has his own gym where he trains youth boxers. He trained a 13-year-old Olympic junior gold medalist in Kevon Crispy Brown. Just a true boxer right here. From your guys' assessment, though, seeing guys with more MMA backgrounds, what kind of a difference does that make going against a guy that's a true boxer?
One of the biggest things to me, is when you look at MMA fighters, they have different punching styles. Even when you have guys that are former MMA fighters, like you could just say, okay, this is an MMA fighter just by the way he punches. They load up more, they throw more wild punches because it is just one of the variables in mixed martial arts. So some of those guys do have power, but they don't know how to maximize it in a boxing standpoint because a lot of the punches they throw from UFC are at different distances, different angles, and they also at the same time have to look for different things. You're not going to have a double leg takedown in a boxing match legally. So, we'll see. But like I said, this kid, looking forward to seeing what Thomas has. If anything, he's an athlete. He's an entertainer. So hopefully we'll have another good fight.
Oh, we will. I mean, pro debut fighters, they have their families here. They're ready to put on a show. They want to come out and start their records off with a 1-0 record. They are going to fight their hearts out. You know this.
There's some MMA fighters. I've judged MMA fights in addition to boxing fights. And there's some MMA fighters that have pretty good stand-up skills if they can just translate it to boxing.
Yeah, I mean, some guys have done it. There have been a few guys that have been good at both. There have been some guys that have tried both and not been successful at one, versus the other. James Toney being the boxer who failed in MMA. And obviously, Conor McGregor, who got very wealthy, but came up short in his
but you got to
box debut against Mayweather.
But he probably made the most money than anybody else in a pro debut career.
Yeah,
so, nobody else ever made that kind of money.
Yeah, but not a huge name. A guy who was decent at both was on The Ultimate Fighter, was out of Boston. I think his about 15, 16, and 2 as a pro boxer. Marcus Davis, I believe his nickname was Irish Hand Grenade.
Yep.
He was a pretty good MMA fighter and had a nice boxing record. So off the top of my head, he's one of the guys that managed to do decent in both. I know guys have spoken about, good boxers have talked about doing MMA. I know Andre Berto's brother Edson's a fighter, but Andre's fighting again next week. So, when he retired from boxing, he spoke about going to UFC, but that didn't happen for one reason or another. But,
Well, let's look at King David Estrada. He won a bare knuckle contest. These guys are bare knuckle champion, and he has an incredible boxer. He's a boxer, per se.
Good, tough, world-class fighter. Even bare knuckle boxing, which I'm a fan of, is not the same as mixed martial arts. It's bare knuckle boxing's a little different from regular boxing, but it's not mixed martial arts. It's not. You're not mixing the martial arts.
Right.
Literally.
You don't have to square up as much. I mean, bare boxing and knuckle boxing and boxing, you actually have a pose of a boxer. Yeah. Whereas in MMA, you square up more because you use your legs and takedowns.
I'll tell you, Mike, one guy from your area who I always wondered why he never gave MMA a try because he was a great wrestler and he could punch was Kermit Centrone. Was a great, from what I heard, he was like a great high school wrestler and he's a natural puncher. So he's a guy, I don't know how well you know him. I always was kind of curious why Kermit never gave MMA a try.
Kermit's a good friend of mine. Kermit and we've been in the same gym together. I watched him train. I didn't ever have the privilege of training him myself, but I've offered to give him pad work. Kermit, one of the hardest Puerto Rican boxer punchers I've ever known. The thing is, Kermit, I mean, his heart was always been in boxing, when he started in boxing, he decided to stay with boxing, and that's the only reason. I don't know why he never tried that.
Yeah. I actually worked one of his title fights when he fought at Vanderbilt University. Just a talented guy, really a crowd pleaser too.
he actually had one of my favorite knockouts ever. So for those of you that have not seen it, not Lucas Matisse, he had a brother named Walter. If you remember Walter, he fought him on HBO. Kermit hit him with an uppercut and a right hand, and he dropped like a sack of bricks. It was one of my favorite knockouts ever. If you haven't seen it, look out Kermit's intro knocking out Walter Matisse. It was on an HBO undercard, maybe in about 2006, 2007, and I still love that knockout.
Shout out to Kermit. Kermit, love you, brother.
Here we go, a second bout of the evening.
Oh, I can't wait. Ooh, you see that leg sweep? You better not try that in this fight.
You know, I've actually seen that at a local fight card in Tennessee where an MMA fighter actually kicked the boxer down below the belt.
It's been known to happen.
This isn't called the Wild Wild West of pro sports just because. I've seen some crazy thing as well in a fight. I've seen two guys literally wrestle to the ground and punch each other, get disqualified.
Was it the great Jimmy Cannon who called it the red light district of sports, Matt?
I think it was, and you know what? All these years later, he's still correct. So, you know what? Let's see what we have here. You know, like I said, 2 pro debuts in boxing. You know, one guy was an MMA fighter, a pro wrestler. You know, other one's local guy, owns a gym. Definitely is the
Should be
house fighter. So we'll see what these guys have. I think, you know, like I said, both guys in a fight like this, contrary to what I said last fight where you had a veteran Draper against an inexperienced guy in Sunkit, you might have two guys here and their inexperience could actually make for a better fight, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Makes a lot of sense.
What do you look for, Matt, in a fighter with MMA experience when they step into a boxing ring?
The first thing I look for, you know, is their boxing ability. You know, I spoke about that before. You know, are these guys mixed martial artists trying another sport, or are they guys with true boxing ability? You know, so far I'll say this, it's very early, but he has thrown a couple straight punches. So you could just tell from the way he moves, Thomas is an athlete. You know, he's in shape, he's got movement, he's got athletic reflexes, so stuff like that is definitely a good start for him. But again, we'll see how he's able to handle. Ooh, and he lands a nice
Matt,
punch there.
is that other punching style that you see out of MMA guys in a boxing ring? Is that usually more beneficial, or does it kind of hurt them more? Would you say?
I think it hurts them more. You know, I mean, again, you know, if you watch UFC fights, like even Rampage Jackson, who's considered like a devastating puncher, threw a lot of wide punches. You know, and most of the guys that were considered really good boxers for MMA standards, like you take for example, Anderson Silva is probably the greatest MMA fighter I've ever seen. I think he was like 1-2 as a professional. You know, Conor McGregor was known as a puncher, and I mean Floyd let him hang in there. You know, McGregor fought well, but you know, he honestly, if McGregor fought a hungry young fighter, maybe 7-8-0, a guy like that probably would have stopped McGregor early. So again, it's not to disrespect the MMA fighters. They're just two different animals, and they're two different punching styles. You know, so MMA fighters are not gonna, you know, so you'll see a boxer like even right here, like, so I'll say Thomas might have some boxing experience, because if you look at his movement and his rolling and throwing the right hand, that's not an MMA move, because if you roll away like that in MMA, you're getting taken down.
Exactly. Oh wow, he held it, got away with it. Whatever works, I guess. You know.
You know who also was a talented MMA fighter but could box was Nick Diaz.
Yeah. And KJ Noons actually, I think, had about 12 or 13 pro fights. He used to fight for Gary Shaw out in California.
Jens Pulver, UFC champion, was 6-0 as a boxer. So there have been people that have transitioned.
Yeah.
You like Reed's aggressiveness, Michael?
I love it. I mean, and I like the way, you know, both these fighters actually have a great stance. You know, you look at them right now and you don't know anything about them, you would say they're both boxers, because look at their stance. They're actually in a 45-degree angle. They're using the jab properly. I mean, you have to look at exactly what they're doing. I mean, this man
we almost saw the MMA takedown by the natural boxer, guys. That was not the MMA fighter with the single leg takedown.
Exactly. I expected a leg sweep at any time now.
And for any three of you guys, if you're Thomas, from a training standpoint, getting ready for this fight, is there anything differently you kind of have to do coming into something like this?
I'd say shorten up. You know, like I said, the punching styles are different. You know, he's thrown some decent punches, but a couple of his shots have been wild. But again, you know, some of those wild shots you will see from young boxers as well. So the biggest thing is shorten up on those punches, you know, and understand that you have to put all of your energy, you know, into punching, moving, slipping, and everything. You know, there's no takedowns, you know, and in MMA, again, not to discredit them because I'm a fan of the sport, there's times where the guys stay on the ground forever and breathe. In boxing, the ref will break you up pretty quickly. So I definitely think it's a different type of stamina.
Who's this round going to right now, would you guys say?
I think I give that round to Thomas. I think he was a little more accurate, he was a little sharper, a little quicker. I think Thomas won the round, but it was definitely competitive.
I think the judges would have seen it probably even. I mean, personally, the way the this guy they're fighting right now. I mean, if you look at both of them right now, you can tell they're pro debuts. Look at their legs sitting in the corners. You see both the knees are up. You know, their legs are. They need. I mean, their corners need to pull their legs out right now. Pull out their cup. Allow them to breathe. I mean, this comes with experience. I mean, the corners will gain experience as they go along.
And Michael, one thing, not to interrupt, but in a lot of times when a fighter's advancing like Reed, a lot of times some judges will just favor the fighter that's moving forward.
Exactly, because they want the aggressiveness, and that's the way it works.
What is out of both of these guys through this first round, both of them making their pro debut? You guys see very many nerves out of these guys?
No, they actually look experienced.
Yeah.
Truly just a great job by TriStar Boxing. This is a good matchup.
Exactly. My hat's off to the matchmaker.
You know what? They're evenly matched as well. You know, I mean, again, both pro debuts. Don't know a ton about Reed's amateur background. Dave, I'm not sure if you know more being a local guy what his amateur background was like, but these guys really seem very evenly matched from a talent, will, and hunger standpoint. So
yeah, one of Reed's trainers is Kevin Page, who's one of our top young amateur boxing trainers. So, and Reed looks like he's got that sort of orthodox style, throw straight punches, technically proficient.
I mean, aside from the shorts, you couldn't tell who was an MMA fighter, really.
Yeah. The trunks did give it away, but like I said, they both have skills. And as I said in the first round, the single leg takedown attempt was by the boxer, not the MMA fighter.
Exactly.
Moving slowly through this second round here, these guys definitely look like they're trying to get a little bit of more of a feel right here to try to establish some power punches.
I think Reed is looking to set something up, because if you look at
good right
almost
hand.
had it. Because if you look at Thomas, he does a lot of moving. He has a lot of body movement, which can be good, but it also opens up opportunities if he continues to have the same tendencies. So a guy like Reed, who's probably more of a natural boxer, find those tendencies and land those punches. So he's done a good job of being patient. I think he's just kind of watching what he has, catching the movements, and looking to slip that shot in there and catch him.
Well, Reed trained a 13-year-old junior Olympic gold medalist, so he knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. It looks like the true boxing experience of Reed starting to take over here at this point in the fight.
I'm not going to throw in the towel just yet for the other quarter. I mean, the man's got a lot of heart. The man's he's shown a lot of boxing technique and skills. He's bobbing, he's weaving, he's moving his head. He's got a nice sweat going now. Neither fighter breathing hard. Neither one have their mouths wide open.
One thing I like a lot about Reed, and I give him credit, especially for a young fighter, is for a guy in his pro debut, he's not wasting anything. You have a lot of guys come out there, want to throw 100 punches around and, feeling overwhelmed. The bright lights are on for the first time getting a paycheck. A lot of people showing up. It's a big deal. He's very efficient with his punches. He really isn't wasting anything, and to me, that's almost like a veteran move. I mean, some of the better guys in this sport don't do that. So that is a major credit to Reed for being.
Well, not only that, look at the man's back muscles.
Oh,
there's a big shot.
Right hand. Michael, you said earlier, sometimes it's the body shots that kill you.
Yep. I mean, you know what? I'd rather hit somebody in the liver 3 times than hit him to the head 300.
It's a bigger target. You look downstairs. A lot of guys don't do that. You could probably name a bunch of guys that have great chins, but I don't think I've ever heard in boxing history, and you guys have been around the sport longer than me, a trainer, a manager, an analyst say this guy takes a great body punch. I'm yet to find the guy that is a great body punch taker.
Wasn't it the Golden Boy who was boxing pretty well until Bernard Hopkins landed a certain body shot?
Who was it that took that left hook? Was it Matisse that took the left hook, went down, got back up? No,
that was Marcos. That was Marcos Maidana in the first round against Amir Khan, and that was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. That he stood up from that.
Keith Thurman did it as well, not once but twice.
Yeah, Thurman got hurt badly against Louis Collazo in his title defense. Again, I'm still looking for the guy who has the iron stomach. We know the Glenn Johnsons of the world. Guys just have ridiculous chins, but there's no man with the iron stomach.
No, you can't. Well, see, the whole thing is that liver is unprotected. It's such a vital organ, and if you get somebody with a left hook to the liver, I mean, 9 times out of 10 they're going to go down. Mikey Garcia made a living in the amateurs doing the same, and he's still doing it in the pros.
Speaking of great chins, did either of you ever run across a heavyweight by the name of Marion Wilson?
Yep, I'm familiar with with him. He's out of Maryland. He's like, I think it's funny. So I know you're a boxing guy. I'm going to give a shout out to another boxing nerd. There's a gentleman named Henry Hayscup who runs the New Jersey boxing. Ooh.
Big right hand.
Reed is trying to finish the fight,
yeah,
guys.
but he caught a right hand coming in.
Pressure on.
You don't want to do that.
Oh, body, baby.
This fight's going to be over pretty soon. If he gets up from this.
Anthony Bryant.
Yep.
Oh, he'll get up. He'll get up. He'll get up. He'll get up. He's got heart.
At this point of the fight, what does Thomas got to do to get back into this thing?
He needs to catch him with the right hand coming in right now. He didn't do it. He didn't do it.
That's a push.
Yeah, that was a push. No, that was a push. The referee's going to count it. That was a push, though.
It probably doesn't make a difference at this point, but the referee did not have the right call. That was definitely a push.
That was a push.
Yeah,
we all know that.
He's still hurt. So if anything,
the man's even explaining to him, he's like, "Ref, that was a push." Oh, business. There's that overhand right. The problem with Reed is he keeps dropping that left hand. He'll get caught with that right hand. With a more experienced boxer, he's going to have trouble.
No, that's not a knockdown.
No, not a knockdown. He actually got that one right.
See, the thing you always want to look for, too, and I know you talked before about liking Teddy Atlas. Teddy Atlas always says sometimes the fighter that goes down could be more dangerous. If the guy gets... Oh, he's about to go down again.
There it is.
That's
It's over.
That's it.
Tiger Bryant wisely stops the fight. Reed imposed his will, and it was the body work, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, great body work, and again, wasted nothing. We'll see if maybe we can get him over here for a quick post-fight interview. That was very impressive. Again, a lot of happy people here, and competitive fight, especially in the opening round. But
this was a beautiful fight for a pro debut fight. I mean, you guys got to admit, I've seen main events that was not this exciting.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a good fight.
On the other side, if one day Adrian Thomas makes it to pro wrestling, I'll say, you know what? I saw this guy fight pro boxing. So, it's a lot of interesting. And you know what? They're actually having some wrestlers who box professionally, some other pro athletes as well. So you never know.
Yeah. So what does Reed need to work on in the future?
What I'd like to see from Reed, it's obviously all potentially, but if he fights a guy who's aggressive, let's say he fights a good tough veteran guy who likes to come and give him pressure, you'll have to see how he reacts off of that, being that he's a guy that doesn't waste punches. If he keeps this careful style, which worked tonight, against a more aggressive fighter with busier hands, it could end up hurting him with the judges. But it's something he can work on, and it's to be determined.
If I was Reed's trainer right now, I'd tell Reed to stop moving your head. Bob Reed, keep your left hand up. Don't be so susceptible to a right hand, because he is open to an overhand right. So I would tell him, stop bobbing and weaving. Use your pivot motion. Go side to side. Do not come straight forward, and that's what he's doing right now. But he is definitely somebody to watch.
Yeah. I thought he showed good boxing skill, showed good poise. I thought Matt hit it on the head with efficiency. Very efficient fighter.
Yes, he was.
No, like I said, impressive for a pro debut. He showed the patience, which, again, for the most part, it's a good thing. Down the line, if he keeps this type of style, he fights a guy who throws a lot of punches. That's where sometimes counter punches could have problems. But again, he'll improve, and you can tell he definitely has a good boxing IQ. So again, David, you would know better than me about his amateur background. But if a kid like this, had a lot of gym time, I would not be surprised.
He certainly did. Well-schooled fighter.
Well, not only that, look at the man's back. That man is not wasted. I mean, this man cut all his back,
Yeah, definitely came in shape. Sometimes you'll have some guys coming in the ring, looking like they hadn't been training for a boxing match, but both these guys are definitely in world-class shape, taking it very seriously.
That's because, they starve themselves for 6 weeks. They don't eat. They deprive themselves of water. They cut weight. And then all of a sudden they blow themselves up the night before the fight, and they're a completely different fighter walking in the ring that weighed in the night before.
I mean, we've even seen that at the world-class level. You look at David Lemieux's last fight. Guy was a middleweight champion of the world. Just looked awful physically against Billy Joe Saunders, and it really hurt him. So having the diet down, knowing what weight to fight at, and knowing how to treat your body is important, especially the day of the fight, because some of these guys look at it, it's like, oh well, he gained 18 pounds, but you know what? That's extra body weight. That's extra target, and that sometimes slows guys down. So there's definitely a right way to do it.
Yeah, my hats off to Adrian Thomas for being an MMA fighter, stepping into a boxing ring and looking as proficient as he did. He did not look sloppy. He did look like he knew what he was doing. His poise was good. His stance was great. So it was an interesting fight.
Yeah,
absolutely. Though, although at the end of the day, it's a different sport, isn't it? Mixed martial arts is a different sport than boxing.
I still want to see how good he is in the wrestling ring. I want to hear him cut a promo.